Paying the bills. Okay, great. Do I have the money to pay the bill? No, I don't. Okay, so, well, what did I need to do to be able to pay the bills? So that comes from having a complete financial picture of what the business is doing.
The Collaborative Entrepreneur. Okay, welcome back, everybody, to The Collaborative Entrepreneur with your host, Tracy Currington. Glad to have you with us today. The Collaborative Entrepreneur exists because we're building partnerships that will help grow our business. And the reason why we're collaborative is because we want to bring other fellow like-minded, like-valued entrepreneurs onto the show to help you know and learn from their journey. I think maybe I started the podcast a little bit selfishly, because I wanted to connect with these people that are just brilliant in the things they're doing, and they're willing to take risks, and sometimes they get trapped in stinking thinking too, and just to hear how they've navigated through that with a family or with economy slowdowns and COVID and all these kinds of things that they've gone through. I hope you're learning these and following us. Continue to follow us and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to do that. But at any rate, we've got to jump into the material because I'm so excited to have our guest here today, and I want to introduce her in just a minute. But remember, this show exists because we want to delve into the minds of those that seem to be going places, those that are like, there's just something about, there's certain people, the reason why, I have like one criteria about people that I invite to the show. When I meet that person, I don't know if it's an energy, I don't know if I'd describe it that way, but there's a connection. There's something about them that I think I relate to that person, and I may not even know what it is yet. And then I have a little conversation with them, like, okay, I gotta get closer to this person, connect with them, let some of their brilliance rub off on me. And if you are that person, you have come to the right place, because that's what we're going to do on this show today. So I want to introduce the episode today by saying this: businesses, you might divide them into three primary categories or departments, if you will. And the departments are these. There's going to be operations, right? There's got to be a product that has to be put together or packaged, and there's going to be somebody like a COO, a chief of operations. And then there's going to be at least a marketing and sales department. Because you got to advertise the product, right? But every business has to have a financial department. It's so critical that we have, at the very minimum, these three. Now, obviously, everything rises and falls in leadership. There's got to have that. Good, healthy team members, a hiring process. All of those things are kind of add-ons to having the right people in the organization. But if you've got operations, you've got sales and marketing, and then you've got that financial department, that's what we're going to do. And the vital role of ensuring financial integrity within a company, the vital role of fostering business transparency in the marketplace and to customers, and the kind of the driving the company towards success, that's found in the all-important role of the CPA. And we're going to talk about that today. I have on the call one of those unsung heroes, or heroine, to the not like the drug, but a female hero. She's an entrepreneur who's dedicated to helping individuals in and through her business in life. And she goes through the filter of financial management, money mindset, strategic planning. She's 10xing her clients' results and increasing their revenues. And you can learn a lot about her. She'll share with us on her LinkedIn page and other social media platforms. She's a spouse, a mother, certified coach, 10x coach, a speaker, a mentor. She's also a CPA, like I mentioned, a certified public accountant, and she's also chartered global management accountant. She's an auditor, a CFO, an author, which I did not know until I read the script for today. She's a show host, and she's the creator of Valuation MT methodology, and that helps her clients 10x their business. So I can't wait to unearth all the driving force behind all the commitment to her businesses and to her clients or individuals in her life. In our conversation, no doubt, we're going to take some twists and some turns. We're going to let it freestyle today and just kind of go where the conversation takes us. Get ready for understanding what fuels her and her wins, what she's learned mainly from those things that were not learns in life, the opportunities to grow, those kinds of things, what she's working on today, and how she might be able to help you accomplish what you want to accomplish in your future relating to finances and coaching and so forth. And so we're going to learn a lot from her entrepreneurial journey today. So get yourself, maybe it's water that you need, make sure you stay hydrated, a cup of coffee, hot tea, get yourself a pencil, something to write on. I got my remarkable today, and I know you're going to take good notes today, right? Because she's going to drop some bombs for us, give us some good nuggets today. Her name is Marie Torossian. So Marie, after all that lavish introduction, welcome to the call today.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely.
That was a massive intro.
I'm so excited to have you here. And one of the cool things that I got to find in just kind of learning your backdrop and everything is that you were born and raised in Lebanon. And I would love for you to kind of start from that vantage point, from there, coming over to the States, your journey to where you are today. Can you give us the flyby? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I'm born and raised in Lebanon. I'm of Armenian origin. So I was born actually in the midst of Lebanese war, and it feels like most of my life there has been during wartime. One of the key things I would say that has always wanted me to, I guess get out is, other than not wanting to be in war, is opportunities, right? So there were not enough opportunities in Lebanon to grow and study in a way that I always imagined. And my dad was very influential in that. He started his first, I guess, entrepreneurial journey at the age of like 40 something, and in the midst of war, and he kept on twisting and changing the business as things were happening. Let's say demand or whatever was failing, and I was there 11 years old working with him right from the beginning, doing inventory, putting items in the shelves, doing accounts payable without realizing, just filing the invoices. I mean, you name it, I was doing it. Cash register, selling to customers. So I was literally doing everything, helping in that store. Whatever he was selling. We've gone from having a store for like kids clothing, and we've switched to a small mini market. Obviously in those countries at the time, they weren't like massive markets. It was mostly like within that area, like a small mini market that you have some deli items, very, very small. So we've gone to deli, and then we did sandwiches, and then it was like, it was constantly evolving to what the demand was, just so he can survive, and take care of his family. So that what I feel was the backdrop for me to always wanting entrepreneurship and always dreaming big. And and he would always talk about when he was working in Saudi Arabia, the Western mindset was so open, so different. So he got me all of this stuff thinking, and I was like, and at some point I felt like I was very trapped in my own country, that there was no opportunities for me to grow, even if I went to college, which was very expensive for me to go. So I had the opportunity to first go to Canada. I had a visitor visa, and I went there, and I decided to stay there. So that was a great experience of like learning to live in the Western world, but also learn some new language. And it was very exciting. I've done retail. So I was in retail most of the time I was living in Canada. So always selling, right? Always talking to people. I love that. I have that energy that I can't hide it. And so then I met my husband. My husband is from Miami, United States. So I moved here back in 2004. And I wanted to go back to college because I had totally missed like 3-4 years of going to college, because I left the country. And I decided to go into accounting because I was like, there was something about what I did at the store that it was always related to accounting. So I'm like, that's going to be such an important basis for any business that I have one day, because I need to understand the numbers behind it. My father was struggling all the time, making, whether paying the vendors, paying payroll, not payroll, but like just paying himself to be able to take care of the family, borrowing and whatever it is, which every business owner and entrepreneur struggles through. It is a struggle until you build to a certain point, and then you're able to manage that in a different way. You have a team members that help you grow. But my dad didn't know that. He was just doing whatever he knew, and what he didn't know, he didn't know. And that's that gap, right, that held him back.
Yeah.
So that's why I felt that, like, knowing accounting, knowing financials and where you're going and how, you know, that's going to be super important in whatever business that I have one day, which, by the way, I wanted to have a restaurant.
Really?
Yes. I wanted to have a Lebanese style restaurant here in the West, you know, but one day.
Yeah, one day. And then you can have somebody operate it for you.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'll just go there just to talk to people and make sure they're getting entertained.
So I love your story. I love your story because at a young age, just recognizing like there's a ceiling on growth where you're at.
Yeah.
And so like that struck me. You know, I think, you know, a couple of weeks back, we got to have a private conversation and like just, and I hearing that, and then you saying it again, I don't think I connected it back then, but I connected it now. Like, you know what a great way to start this episode, just considering where you were at. And so like other people, they maybe they're in a city that's just not conducive to, you know, the opportunities that they want, or, you know, maybe they're in a, you know, kind of a boyfriend girlfriend relationship. And it's just, this is not going anywhere. Like, you're hitting your lid, you're hitting your ceiling.
Yes.
They're in a job, a job, right? And they're maybe, like you said, they're in an expensive college, and they're just like, am I even going to use this? Those kinds of things.
Right.
Talk to me about that. How would one, like, how did you go about that discovery of like, you know what, there's no opportunity for growth here? Is there signs that you saw, like something that you saw specifically that you can help the audience with?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the country that I was at, there's like, obviously, you know, women's opportunities were not there, at least not at the time. Yeah, sure. So whether I got educated with the highest degrees over there, I would still get paid like very little. The jobs that I would probably land will always hold me back from full growth. And I would say, I mean, some of the movies that I watched, you know, US movies and American movies, like, it always opened up that dream of like, you know, there is something else out there. Obviously, you know, movies, you know, can picture, you know, create this beautiful picture of like what it could be like. So obviously, you know, that was something that attracted me. I'm like, well, there is something out there that's different. The other thing, my dad is, again, he was very influential because when he lived and worked in Saudi Arabia, and he got to meet so many, you know, people from the West, right? You know, it could be from England, from the United States. So he met a lot of different people and different ideas. So he came back with the same ideas of dreams. It's like what I could do, what is possible. I want to do it here. But of course, Lebanon at the time, and still now, it was not the right soil for growth.
Yeah.
So he struggled because he had the big dreams and he struggled. So I saw him struggling. I'm like, it's not going to happen here. We could work to death. We could work 10 to 12-hour days, and we did. We had no life. All four of us, my mom, my dad, my sister, and I were always working. But there was never going to be that great opportunity of making this massive shift from doing the dailies to really having a life, like a dream life that we could take a trip or take a travel outside the country. So it was going to be so much harder, especially that there's internal wars, there are external pressures, there's just so much political issues happening that even if you make that money, can you even keep it? Can you save it? What if next day there's bombs again and the building you own no longer exists and there's no insurance against it? There's so much there that it was, as I got closer to 15, 16, I was like, I'm tired of seeing this. I'm tired of not getting ahead. I'm tired of seeing my dad struggling. With the right mindset, he was always reading. He wasn't educated per se, like in school, but he was always reading. He was self-educating himself to make a difference in his life. And he really struggled. So those were the, I guess, things that I started seeing. And I'm like, I can't. There's no way for me to be happy here, even if I was born here.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, Okay, so guys, you're watching this episode right now, and you're hearing a beautiful story, a story of a young lady who's seeing her dad struggle. It's not the right soil, and so I'm just thinking about like the battle, the pressures, the concerns, the real concerns that even if I built something, would it even be here for? And like, there's a parallel to like to real life, whether you were coming from Lebanon or not. I mean, like real life, like I mentioned, relationships. I'm in this job. There's conflict. It's a toxic environment. It's a toxic relationship or whatever. Like there's no future. So you gave us some great thoughts on that. And then also the thought about dreams. That when you were talking about that, like I don't know how many people. I know I can't be the only one. And I'm glad that you're one that's already confessed. Like, yeah, I use movies to help illustrate or put my dreams in picture or color or whatever. Yeah. Because like I've done that too, right? I mean, like a movie depicts a life that like I want that one day, and sometimes we don't know what we want until like we see a vision of like what could be. And you mentioned something about like looking at that and like what it could be like. Mm-hmm. So and I was thinking about your like looking for that inspiration about what it could be like.
Yes, in a country like that, where there's really nothing else to inspire to, like the movies were like what kept us inspired in a way, So yeah, it was great. I mean, and again, I think one of the great things that I've learned going through that is resilience, being able to survive through a lot of stress that most people, for example, and I'm not putting anyone down here, but just when certain people are struggling with, what I feel is like, it's just very basic. When you're coming from that world of like, it could be a bomb falling on me any second, or like a car blowing off next to me and I'm done. When you're coming from that kind of world, there's certain amount of stresses or issues or problems that you see, you're like, well, it's not really a big problem. Like I don't know why everybody's freaking out. I'm not freaking out. Like, so I mean, same thing happened to me like during COVID. Everybody was freaking out, and I'm like, I don't know why it's freaking out. And I'm looking at my dad, like, I don't know. That's what.
Yeah.
Yes. The three of us were like, I don't know. What's the big deal? It's just.
I think probably what you've learned in your life, and I love where you're going with this, because it puts it in a proper perspective.
Yes.
Like when you like, I think the John Maxwell has a quote that he says, and I think I've heard Grant mention this in a different paraphrase, but basically the number one responsibility of a leader is to define reality. You got to really find out like what's really going on here. I mean, like is it really that bad? I mean, like, so resilience, perspective. What else do you think that your backdrop? I mean, I can clearly see the perspectives. This is not as bad as what you think it is. And then the resilience, the ability to bounce back.
Yes.
Is there anything else that like your backdrop growing through that time has taught you? Like, that's kind of a guiding principle.
Yes. And the way I see it, and this is, it's funny that you're asking, like one of the things that I've always envisioned myself being is a warrior.
Wow. Okay. I love that.
So, and I know it's like women don't imagine as a warrior, but I do, because when you have to live to that kind of difficulty, you are a warrior every day. Every single person is a warrior, because you can very easily give up and say, and then fall apart and then get into either depression or other issues that could really hold you back from moving forward. A warrior is willing to die for whatever it is that their goal is, right? Like, think about those times. A warrior just goes all in. It's all in. So one of the things that I have, I guess, learned from my experiences is that I'm a warrior. I will go all the way in. So it's, and that's kind of what brings me to when I decided to finally go into entrepreneurship. It was like, that was it. I was like, I'm either all in and I'm failing all the way, or I'm gonna march through and survive. That's it. There's two ways. There's nothing in between. So I think that's a perspective, in a way, a perspective of a warrior. It's like, it's so funny. The other day, actually, I was, I usually wear these two bracelets and my watch. It's like, it looks like a warrior cup, right? Like, and I wear it every day, and I don't have it right now, but this what someone told me, he's like, Marie, you look like a warrior today. I'm like, I'm a warrior every day.
Mission accomplished.
And these remind me every day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. I love that. Like, be a warrior, the proper perspective, and find resilience. I can see how that, because it is interesting that our environment, our education, those kinds of things help to shape our experiences in life, help to shape who we become in life. And like, I think that there's a backdrop. When it's so fascinating when you hear like Grant's story. Yes. About like what helped to shape him to who he is, the loss of his father, or you hear some, leading entrepreneur, and then you hear their story and like, wow, they had to overcome a lot, or they had a lot of challenges and everything. And I'm not sure if that's what makes for the best, I don't know, pot for to produce entrepreneurs, but at least they have a desire for engaging more risk than what's normal.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel that even from when I first started my journey to now, my risk tolerance is only increased. Right? So when people used to tell me, when I was in Montreal, and people would tell me, I was like 21 years old, just left by myself, and when I would tell them, oh yeah, I just left my country, I'm living here now, and they're like, what? You left your country by yourself? Like 21 years old? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I needed to leave. So for me, it didn't really hit me until people would say to me, wow, that was so courageous. I'm like, but when I did it, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to be courageous today.
Yeah, right.
It was just like, I needed it. I had to do that. It was just, you just do it. Mm-hmm. So it's so funny. So that from that day on, like the risk tolerance has only gotten bigger and bigger. And to get into entrepreneurship, and having a business, you need to have courage, and you need to be able to go all in. So yeah.
I love it. I love how you call that risk tolerance. I just did an episode recently on my tolerance for failure. So my tolerance for failure, like I have a higher failure tolerance than I've ever had before.
Gotcha.
Because I'll now tolerate failure because I tried. Exactly. Oh, I did it. And then I try. And so like the more you try something and fail, the more your tolerance for failure expands, where you're not afraid of failing.
Exactly. You're not afraid of failing because you understand that failure is only a way to learn to get better. So if you never try, you never fail. So then if you never fail, then you never learn and you never better yourself. Yeah. And I'm always wanting to learn more. Mm-hmm. I can never stop learning.
That's awesome. Okay, so you mentioned, you said, and I think this will probably be the episode title. I want you to share a little bit about, you said, understanding the numbers behind the business. And so I'm gonna shift. I love your story. It's a great story, and now we know your passion, your drive. And I have to say, my full confession, if I'm fully transparent here, is to say that so I saw your energy. We got to meet at one of the events. We got to meet through our coaching community and so forth. And your energy did not strike me as an accountant. I'm like, okay, she's a high value, high producing realtor, or because they're just high energy and stuff like that. And then when I heard that you were in finances and then like CPA, I'm like, I'm not saying that CPAs in my mind were like a librarian. But it was just like a level above. And because I've met other CPAs and other accountants that they have a little bit more, they're like a C-minded personality, the cautious, calculating. And while you may have that one, what I get to see and what no doubt your clients get to see is this big thing of energy. And so coming into that, bringing that energy into a business and then focusing on the numbers behind that business and understanding that, help us to understand the relevance, the importance of that, and why the energy that you exude is so critical.
I love that. So the numbers, like I said, it was when I could see my dad struggling through, getting the whole picture of what he was doing. For example, yes, you have a bank statement. Great. The bank statement just tells you the in and out, doesn't tell you anything more than that. Right. It could be a balance. Okay, my balance is this. Great. But does it really give you a picture of what is the performance of your business? So I saw him having a hard time making decisions because he didn't know where he stood. He was just looking at the bank balance. He couldn't see the full picture. Paying the bills. Okay, great. Do I have the money to pay the bill? No, I don't. Okay, so well, what did I need to do to be able to pay the bills? So that comes from having a complete financial picture of what the business is doing. So I started my journey in accounting as an auditor, which is a very different perspective. And I do want to touch on this because it's going to lead me to where I want to go.
Okay.
As a financial auditor, we don't go into a business to do the accounting. We are going into the business to see if the accounting is being done accurately, it's coming out relevant, it's following the rules and regulations of accounting, right? And let's say whether they decide to do cash-based accounting or accrual-based accounting. Basically, the difference being one is only cash. You pay cash, you take cash. That's all you report. Versus accrual accounting, it's like, yes, I got my products, but I still have to pay. Or I built my client for my work. I'm just waiting to get paid. So the difference is that giving that accrual accounting gives you a better picture of the flow of how the money's coming in and out, what you still owe. So it gives a better picture. So in auditing, we're not doing that. We're just looking at the numbers, maybe doing some analysis, and just making sure that what they say they're reporting is actually correct. That is the point of it. Very simplified version. So when I was doing that, to me, it felt like it was not my thing. I was like, I am bored out of literally bored out of my mind. I'm gonna die if I do this again. If I have to, and I said that to my manager, I said, if I have to tick and tie another number, I'm gonna die. Yeah. So for me, the best part about when I was an auditor was going to different clients. It was like talking to and meeting different clients and at the time I didn't even realize, and that's because it's my personality. My personality doesn't fit the audit world.
Yeah, right.
So then I shifted to corporate accounting, became an accounting manager, and then a controller, then a CFO. What was great about working in that area is that you are still talking to people to a certain point, internal people, but you are in the operations of the business. So if you don't understand the operations of the business, the accounting is not going to be done correctly.
That right there is very, very good, and it makes me wonder about just I got to pause on that one because that was a brilliant statement. So because I just, like, you gave me just huge value in serving some of my clients that are either accountants or that they're in the operations. How well does your accountant understand the operations of the business? Yep. What do you think what is the answer to that? Like, if you were to put, like, in a nutshell, percentage wise, how many or how many out of 10 for every 10 businesses, this many accountants really truly understand the operations?
I would say maybe, I don't know, 20 to 30%. If they've actually, even if they're used, depends on the level that they're at and how committed they are to learning the operations of the business.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Thank you for that. That was, you need to go back and rewind, catch that statement, and then consider that, especially if maybe you're a COO or you're a CFO, if you're in charge of, those accountants in how well are we training those accountants in the operations? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Great thought. Thank you for that. Okay, go ahead.
So with that, so understanding the operations is very important. So for example, for what was very helpful coming as an auditor to a corporation, and this is something that most people miss, is that as auditors, our first goal is to understand the operations of the business. And we are trained to do that within 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
So what happens is that we want to, so for example, we get a brand new client in audit, right? So we go in there, we're trying to understand the business, we'll pull every document, HR, handbook, we'll pull all the contracts. So we are reading all of these documents, the lease covenants, everything. So you get so much knowledge to understand what is the operations before you start, looking at their financials. Because remember, we're not going into details. We're looking from top level and then picking and choosing what we need to check. So you have to be able to get comfortable with the operations to ask for the right things to check. Wow. So when I could bring in to that operations now, so let's say now I'm on the inside in the corporate world, what I did was exactly the same way. So I went in there and I would ask the types of questions that will help me clear out what is the operations. I want to understand all the different pieces of the departments and how they're integrating together so I can report accounting properly. So I'll give you an example because I don't want it to be like this general kind of concept here. But so for example, I worked with a client, and back when I just started as consulting, that they did corporate gifting and they were making 5 million plus, but they were not profiting. So, and they had an investor that was interested in them, and they brought me in to kind of look at what's going on. So my questions to them, before I even take them on as a client, because I'm like, I want to know what the heck's going on in there. That kind of is odd, if you're not making profit and you're already making $5 million gross revenues. I mean, you should have some profit there.
Right.
So I was asking questions on why are the receivables so high? I asked auditor questions. So why is your receivables over 90 days? What is happening that you're not able to get paid? How often are you billing? When do you bill? Are you collecting deposits ahead of time before you do the work? These are all questions related to, for me to know how the accounting should be done, not what's done, what should be done.
Yeah. That's so
I get
good.
all details.
Yeah, when you're saying, thank you for the illustration. There may be somebody watching this that like, oh man, numbers are not my thing. No, you need to follow. There's some principles being said here. And like, I know for a fact, there's some that I know of that are like, hey, we want to generate this kind of revenue and we hope we get it all paid before the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's not the last quarter yet. And they're hoping that all the money would come in. Like, why are we so far behind? Why are these accounts not being paid? Those kinds of things. Something's broken. So there's two things that I picked up. and I just was thinking about this when you said understanding the numbers behind the business. Then you went into this understanding the business before the numbers.
Yes.
I thought, wow, that's a pretty. Do I have a grasp on that? Do you?
Yes. No, you're fine. Yes, absolutely.
And then understand the numbers behind the business.
Right. So I'll circulate. That's a great point that you made. So once I understand the operations, then I can report accounting correctly. So once the financial numbers are accurate, then the business, those numbers are now telling me a story.
I see. I get you. What is the basic story that, in your experience from serving multiple businesses in different industries, is there a common theme that the numbers tell you? Like when you're reading the numbers behind the business and they're telling you a theme, they're telling you a story. In general, what do they know? What's the heard this story before? What is that story?
So it could be a lot of different things, but it could be, that they're having, collections issues. It could be that they're having, they're using working capital for, paying payroll.
Oh, whoa, okay.
Right. So, and it's increasing, or they're doing these short-term loans to pay basic stuff, but there's not enough cash flow to actually pay those bills back, and then they increase. Let's say that can result into high interest rates. Now they're paying too much money towards interest instead of actually putting the money in the business. So all of this is a story, but just looking at financials, and if someone cannot actually tell a story, just if I give you a P&L, you're like, well, okay, great. I see all the numbers. Okay, but what do they mean? Yeah. The numbers alone don't mean anything. You just have to paint the picture though. So one of the key things I like to look at, and any of the listeners can try, is that I would look at, for the year to date, I would look at by month what's happening. And I want to see, let's say, are the sales growing? Are they staying stagnant? Are there ups and downs? Why are they ups and downs? Should I be digging in and finding out? Did they not build something? Or is it seasonality? All of these are what we would do as an auditor and asking questions. So I always go into the financials with that mindset. I'm always looking for trends and what's happening. And that way, when I talk to the business owner, I'm not just sending them a financial statement. I'm sending them a financial statement with an analysis and a summary of what I think is going on based on the numbers. So they understand what's going on and they can make decisions. And that is what's different about different maybe CPAs or different accountants. And that maybe sometimes it's hard to explain what we're doing in like very simple terms because no one's, asking us these types of questions so we can dig in and explain, right? So, and that's where it's hard. And when they say, well, my CPA doesn't do that. I'm like, well, you also want to know if they're a tax CPA, if they're a forensic CPA. I mean, I got my CPA because I was in auditing. Most let's say controllers or accountants, they don't really need a CPA to do what they're doing. But then again, they may not go into the numbers the way I go in.
It sounds like I'm hearing like a superpower or a strength that you have. Like what makes you more than vanilla ice cream in the marketplace is that you've come by way of auditing. So like now that you're on the accounting side, the CPA side, you have, like you're an accountant with an auditor's mindset where it's like the whole view. Is that right? Yeah, absolutely. Does that make you distinguished in the marketplace, you think?
Absolutely. And then it's hard to find, not that I'm that unique, but I'm like, it is harder to find auditors that go into corporate and then come back out to public accounting to serve, because most of them, their track would be being an auditor for maybe 10 years or something, and then moving on to a CFO role at a bigger company. So they never really come back out into the marketplace to help small businesses, right? So that's usually the track, and at that end, they just become a CFO, they take a company public, and all these other experiences they get to have. So what happened with me is that I went from audit to corporate, and then from corporate back out into serving smaller businesses.
Yeah.
And that's why it's unique.
So yeah, and I was thinking like bringing this one step forward. So we got to connect as 10X certified coaches.
Yes.
And I mean, you're serving people and giving them massive value. And we're both partnered with Grant Cardone. And I was just thinking here, like, so and correct me on this one, because I've always heard, well, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. Yes. The numbers don't lie. And then I heard somebody add to that. They'll say, well, the numbers don't lie, but they don't always tell the whole truth. Now, is that true? I mean, like, now that you've taken your experience with the numbers from auditing basically the accountants, to now accounting and having that auditor's mindset as well, to now serving individuals and helping them 10X their life, their goals, like we talked about in the introduction, is that because the numbers don't always tell the whole truth, and that's why, maybe it's a mindset that's the one behind the driving force behind it? Talk to me about that. That may be a loaded question, but
yeah, we can break it down. So the numbers don't lie. The statement behind, like, that statement, what they're trying to say is that to a certain point, the numbers are numbers. So if you look at your bank account and it says X dollars, it is X dollars. It's not lying, right? It ties into whether you worked enough, you didn't work enough. So did you handle your cash properly? I mean, right? So the numbers don't lie. It is what it is. Now, the other statement was, well, it depends. What was it? How did you put it?
But they don't always tell the whole truth or the whole story.
Okay. So what that means is that when you just, like, which is something I said earlier, is that you look at the financial statements, the numbers are the numbers. But if you're never digging into what the story is behind the numbers, then they're not really telling anything.
Okay. So like, guys, now you're seeing the connection between the coaching side of things to find out what is drawing these numbers, or why these numbers are the way they are. Yeah. Love that. Okay. Exactly. So Marie, you have educated me on more than I've ever been educated on the number side of it, and especially about just the difference between auditors and accounting, what that looks like. I did not know that. What is a lesson that in your field, like, if younger entrepreneurs that are coming into the space, they want to start their business, maybe they haven't put a lot of focus or a lot of thought on the numbers. What's a lesson or advice you would give them to save a lot of headaches in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so one of the things is really important as it relates to finance in the business is making sure, and this I see it all the time with almost every entrepreneur that just started their business, um, is the fact that they mix up their business money with their personal stuff. So they may not open separate business accounts, or they may literally take out all the money from the business. And then it comes time for doing taxes and they owe so much money and they're like, but why?
Yeah.
There's no money left in the business, you know, they already spent it. And so I caution early entrepreneurs, those who are just starting out, make sure your business is your business, that money stays there, and your personal is personal. Make sure that you are at least investing in some kind of an accounting software and a good bookkeeper, as someone like a solid bookkeeper that at least can put the information in its right place. Okay. The next problem that I usually see is sometimes they try to do it themselves, or maybe they hire like a very, I'm not going to put it down, but I'm just saying super affordable.
Oh, yes. Very inexpensive.
Yes, inexpensive, services. Yeah. Where I end up finding so much mistakes and problems because they didn't understand the operations. They didn't do it with, let's say, accrual basis. So then no one's explaining to the entrepreneur what's going on. There's no relationship with the entrepreneur as to, hey, we should do this. Let's meet up and let me tell you what's going on. And those are the key things that early entrepreneurs, if they're not thinking about growth down the line and they're not preparing for it, they're just going to be here and now, and let's keep it cheap, keep it less expensive, but they're not seeing the big picture of where they need to go. So most of the people that work with me, they may come in with the mindset of like, well, but you are a little bit expensive than other CPAs. And I'll be like, well, this is what we do. These are our different services. When you're working with me, you get a quarterly or a monthly based on the package. You get to meet with me. You get to work with me. I'll walk you through what's happening, and then you'll be able to make decisions. And once they come on board and they're like, when do I pay you?
Yes,
right. This is excellent. This is great. I get my financials every week. I mean, so, and that's what they become. They become fans because they get to, when we promise something, we deliver. And it's really important that I keep that relationship going at all times. And if I don't hear from them, I'll text them, I'll call them. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Yeah, to hear the relationship of you engaging your clients, you in financial world, in accounting, engaging your clients. A lot of business owners that I know of are always trying to get after their accountant.
I know.
Like, I tried calling, I just not getting it. I left a message. Exactly. Wow. And I think the
exact opposite.
Yes, exactly. And that's what makes you, again, unique in the space. And no doubt you have raving fans you've created. But I think going back to what you said about, like, hey, we're not the cheapest, that kind of thing. Like Grant has a thing about that. Like, we are the most affordable in our class.
Yes, we are.
Because you might find somebody inexpensive in the short run. Long term, they're going to cost you more.
And that's exactly what happens. A lot of times, actually, other CPAs will hire me and my team to go clean up the books of some client that they are working with because they can't file the tax returns and everything is a mess. They're like, we don't fix this stuff. We do taxes. Yeah. So then they hire me and my team to fix it.
Yes. Well, okay. So last thing, is there anything that you love to share that I haven't asked that you would love to get that out there, so that, because I really want people to know, I'm going to ask you, where they can follow you, where they can find you, and how they can work with you and everything. But is there anything else you'd like to give a tip or an advice from your world and your perspective, from either your life in resilience or leading up to this point, or just in the financial world? Is there any other tip that you'd like to share?
Absolutely. And that's something that I learned and I did not know when I started my business, was make sure that you're marketing enough.
Yeah.
And it's not ever even enough, but what I didn't know is, obviously being the auditor and then the CFO, marketing was never even in my radar when I launched off. And what happens is that it's important to know what you don't know and either get the help but also educate yourself, because you may actually hire services that they may not know what you're doing. It always comes back to, for example, for me, I said, okay, I don't know marketing, I'll hire people. But these marketing people didn't understand what I do.
Yeah, okay.
So it always comes back to any service provider. They need to understand the industry and how someone does something before they offer it. So my first tip would be, make sure you are doing your marketing, because if you have a business, you have a great service, just like Brand says, is that if no one knows you, no one can floor you. So let's make sure that people get to know you. Yeah. And then the second advice I would always give them is make sure that you're investing in someone or a service that is doing your financials well, because those numbers are going to help you make better decisions for your future of the business and your family, of course.
So wise, so much wisdom in this call. Thank you so much, because it's one thing to go out there and earn the money, and then it's another thing to see it make wings and fly away because you just didn't put it in the right cage. You didn't know your numbers. Now it's all gone. Thank you so much for today's call. I've really enjoyed that. And I love that last piece about marketing being senior to sales, that you got to market, come out of obscurity. Love that.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Marie, for joining me on the call. And by the way, to our viewing audience in this episode, thank you for joining me and following TMC Coaching and what we do here at the Collaborative Entrepreneur, our podcast. If you'd like to know more about me and what I can do for you and how I serve my clients, you can connect with me by email at tracy@tmccoaching.org or online at tmccoaching.org. You can find me there. Until next time, you guys, listen, you got to surround yourself with people just like Marie. I mean, people that can help you, they can save you money, they can make you money, they can help you and give you great tips like what we've been given on this call today. So find those types of brilliant minds that you can surround yourself with, that they can help you to dig deep and do more for your business, for your family, for your future. Until next time, everybody, take care.
Hi guys, Gavin here. Thank you for watching the Collaborative Entrepreneur. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for updates on brand new episodes released every Tuesday evening. Also, if you're looking for more ways to work with Tracy, you can do so at any of these different services that are popping up on the screen. Links for each of these will be in the description. Now, want to be a guest on the Collaborative Entrepreneur podcast? Well, be sure to let us know about your request at gavin@tmccoaching.org. Let us know what industry you're working in, and also let us know some of your wins and some of your greatest learns. We'd love to have you as a guest on the podcast. So until next time, guys, let's win together.